wise men say only fools rush in. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with our special guest, Meakin. This is the podcast where we all go to the movies, we see a movie, and then in the parking lot we talk about it. Should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Did we think it was good? Did we think it was bad? Should you wait for streaming? Or do we give it such a good rating and approval that it changes your mind about something and you end up going to the movies? Who knows? I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, Marie is back for another podcast. Say hello, Marie.
Hi.
Yes. Super excited to be with us again.
I am.
As all our guests are. So that's good. And so we saw a movie tonight. Maybe you could guess what movie we saw based on Todd's little rendition of Fools Rush In. We saw Elvis tonight. The movie Elvis. It's about Elvis.
So much Elvis.
Yes. And there are I don't know if anyone in this movie is famous except for Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so either. The main guy who plays Elvis has been in a couple of things, but I wouldn't put him on true celebrity status yet. Maybe this movie does it for him.
Maybe it catapults him to fame and fortune.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I recognize him from is a Kevin Smith movie, and that's not going to do it for you as a celebrity.
What Kevin Smith movie is he in?
He's in Yoga Hosers.
Oh, okay. I never saw that.
It's not great.
Okay. Well, so Tom Hanks is in this movie. That's all. What's the guy's name who plays Elvis?
Austin Butler.
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your main character, Austin Butler, as Elvis Aaron Presley.
Yeah.
And
the guy who plays Elvis's dad, Vernon, was the Maharaja in Moulin Rouge. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he looked familiar.
Yeah.
Well, so what is this movie about? Well,
I don't think we have to worry about spoilers for this review because,
we all know how it ends.
we all know about Elvis's life, and this movie is about Elvis's life, from when he's a little boy up to when he dies at age 42.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. So really, the movie is about Elvis's life, but it really focuses on his relationship with his manager, who's played by Tom Hanks, and kind of shows that relationship as being a abusive one, where he just can never break away from his manager. Like, he wants to several times throughout his life, and he can. And the manager, what is his name? Colonel Tom
Parker. Yeah.
Parker. He's got his hooks in him the whole time, and every time Elvis wants to break away, he kind of pulls him back in with another scheme, another plan, another snow job, as he calls it, throughout the movie. So, and it just kind of follows Elvis's career as from a young man up into, I'm sure you'll be happy to see included, Todd, Fat Elvis.
Yes.
At the end.
Well, this will be part of my review, but there was not enough. I wanted to dive into his fascination with peanut butter, jelly, and bacon sandwiches. I wanted all that.
Banana.
Is it banana?
I think it's peanut butter banana.
There's bacon on that sandwich, I swear.
Well, maybe. Well, anyway, you got a little Fat Elvis, so
I'll take it.
I hope you feel okay about that. So, anyway, if you know the story of Elvis's life, this movie follows that, I think, pretty clearly. I mean, obviously the conversations and such we don't know, but the main events are all there. So, yeah. So I'll just say, let's dive right in. Todd, what are your thoughts on Elvis?
I gotta tackle this movie from several different points.
Okay.
First, as just a movie, you know, like the acting, the cinematography, all that kind of stuff is pretty good. Like, and I think there's a lot of the guy who directed this movie, and I guess was a huge part of writing it and stuff like that, Baz Luhrmann, did Moulin Rouge. He did The Great Gatsby. He did Romeo and Juliet. Like he does these like weird, you know, high octane, huge visual movies. I almost like compare it to like Bollywood movies, like of what he does. And honestly, I felt this one was a little tamed down from what we're used to. And I don't know if it was because it was like I don't want the flash to outweigh the subject or what. Like I don't really know. If he wants to come on the podcast and talk to us about it, he's welcome.
Yes.
But I was not expecting that. Like I kind of expected the typical over the top stuff. So that threw me for a little bit of a loop to start with the movie. But nothing that I couldn't overcome or nothing that blocked me out from the rest of the movie. I think as far as acting goes, you know, I think Tom Hanks is like acting his butt off in this movie, and you know, Austin Butler I think did a good job. You know, he really like kind of nailed down that Elvis speaking voice from at least what we perceive him to sound like. Not that I've ever talked to him, but I mean, like there's recordings of him, so I assume that's what he sounded like. And so he did a really good job of like sounding and looking and you know basically taking on the role of Elvis, I thought. And every one of the other kind of characters did like I think a fine job, except for the woman who played Priscilla. Like I thought she was kind of like almost like a void. Like there were times where like there's supposed to be emotion, and I was like, I don't see anything. Or so you know, as far as like movie writing, the story, acting, I think this is overall a fine to good movie as far as that stuff goes. The biggest problems I had with this movie, and it's my problem with any biopic movies, is that if you do a biopic movie and the narrative, like, so the narrative of this movie is that Elvis is the victim through almost his whole, you know, professional career. Like he's got this manager who is, you know, an abusive relationship, manipulative, like kind of trying to get his way because he wants to get rich and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, they paint this narrative of that, look at the bad things this guy did to this, our hero, kind of stuff like that. But it heavily misses, slightly glosses over all the bad stuff that Elvis did, which is really bad stuff. Like, they don't even really mention it, that when him and Priscilla first dated, she was 14 years old. Like he was a 23-year-old man, like, and she was 14. And they definitely never touched on the fact that he had a thing for virgins, and when he was out on the road, he only slept with underage girls. Like, these are all documented real things. And they don't even, like, I mean, I don't know how you throw that into a movie and have him still be the hero, but if you're going to do a biopic movie, I just feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, for a biopic movie, I want to learn all the stuff. Like, I want to see all the stuff that we didn't see. I want to learn it all, and that, you know, and then people can make up their minds. You know, like, is that stuff enough to upset you that you're like, I'm done with him? Is that enough stuff for people to say, not that anyone's a fan of this, it was like, it's a different time, or like, but, you know, at least some kind of make up your own mind kind of thing. And this, as a biopic, does not do that at all. Like, through most, even the scenes where Elvis is like not necessarily the hero in his own life, he's still painted as the ultimate victim. Like, and, you know, in some aspects, I think he was, as far as like how his manager handled him and all that kind of stuff. But then there's times in his life that he was the ultimate predator, like, and he was the ultimate not so good guy. And that goes along to me with a biopic. Like, and I know it's Hollywood, it's always got to be dressed up, It's always got to be like, you want to attract people to the theater and stuff like that. And I'm sure many people, if they found out this movie was going to like really dive into that stuff, they probably wouldn't come. So financially, I understand why they make these decisions. But if your movie is labeled as a biopic and you're not willing to go the distance in that aspect of the movie, it's going to alter my rating. It's going to affect how I feel about the movie walking out. And so as a biopic and all that aspect of stuff that I've already said, I thought it really kind of failed miserably in that aspect. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I don't know how you include all that stuff in a movie and still make it a movie that people want to come to. So I don't have those answers. But, on this podcast, we give our gut reactions. And that's my gut reaction. Is like, you really, for however long this movie is, they paint this picture of the Elvis is the ultimate victim, but he benefited a lot from everything, and used that to be able to be not such a great guy at times. So, as far as like, should people see this movie? Obviously, if you're a fan of Elvis in any kind of way, you're going to see this movie, whether or not I say it's good to go or not. So I would assume a lot of people who grew up with Elvis, his shows and movies and all the radio and stuff like that, they're probably going to go see this movie. My parents are probably going to see this movie. But if you're a person who cares about the integrity of a biopic, then I don't think this one's for you. Like, it's a lot of flash. And honestly, it's kind of like a two-hour fluff piece about the guy. Like, some stuff they keep in about his marriage and cheating and stuff like that, but they didn't go the distance with it. And so, I'm going to have a hard time deciding where my rating's going to fall, taking into consideration how I feel about it as a movie and how I feel about it as a biopic. So that's all I can really say for now. I'm going to be spending the rest of our time here trying to nail down a number. So, but, Marie, how'd you feel about this old Elvis ditty?
Well, as the only person in the car who remembers when he died, because I was 10, I remember his music. I remember when he was alive. So, I remember a lot of stuff about him. Not as much as my parents, of course. But I agree with you that they glossed over a lot of him and his personality and the things that he did that were not so cool. But they really did dive into his relationship with his manager that we didn't know that much about until after he died. And that I found really interesting. Which was the part that most of us didn't know, I would say. Which I do think is separate from what I think of the movie itself as a movie. The director is really known for creepy, flashy movies. I thought he always has some kind of creepiness to his movies, at least the ones I've seen. And he had a lot of creepiness in the beginning with the clowns and the circus stuff. And I was glad some of that went away later in the movie. I feel like there was a lot of flash and weirdness in the beginning, and as the movie went on, it got a little less intense, and it became more, I don't want to say normal movie, but a little less
Baz Luhrmann.
A little less Baz Luhrmann. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I became a little less distracted by the style of the director and a little bit more engrossed in the story. And it was a pretty long movie, I thought, because it was a 7 o'clock, the previews, but then we didn't get out till 10, so it was a pretty long movie.
Yeah, probably like 2.5.
Yeah, it was pretty long. So those were my thoughts. I thought they didn't go into a lot of depth of character for Elvis, really. I thought they glossed over a lot of stuff. There was a lot of events, but and his relationship with Priscilla was not really very deep at all. And I agree with you as far as Priscilla's character was not developed.
Yeah, it just was weird at times. Like,
Yeah.
especially like when she's leaving him and they have that conversation, and I just was like, this is probably supposed to be one of the most significant moments of Elvis's life, and I was like, who
Oh,
cares
I still
at this
got
point?
teary though.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, no. There was a lot of sniffling in the row I was in, but she was kind of flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was pleased, but it was still significant. I thought the movie itself was good. I enjoyed it, and the last podcast I was on, I told you my measure of how good a movie is in my brain is if I'm distracted by anything else in my life, and I didn't think about a darn thing
Nice.
other than this movie. So I was completely engrossed in the story.
I like that metric.
That's my metric. Do I think about anything else in my life while I'm watching a movie? And if I don't think about my life, if it is a complete break in the reality of Marie's world, then it's a decent movie.
Nice.
And I realized as we were walking out of the theater, I didn't think about a damn thing but
Nice.
this movie. So that's my metric. So it was entertaining for me. And as somebody who lived through Elvis's death and saw the headlines and kept the newspaper when I was 10 years old for years and years with the headlines, and sat with my mother and watched TV and watched the funeral and went through that whole experience as a kid, this was actually really meaningful, and I went through a whole bunch of emotions in this movie. So it was kind of cool for me, and I was really interested to see how this director did this movie just because of the style of previous movies.
Yeah, it's track record.
Yeah, the track record was really, I was really interested to how flashy and weird it was going to be, and so I was glad it was toned down just a little bit. But and Tom Hanks was brilliant, and it was fascinating to see Tom Hanks be not a very nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could count on your hand the amount of movies that he's done where he's not the good guy.
Yeah, he was kind of creepy. Yeah, kind of creepy. So that's me. That's what I
Nice.
think.
Okay.
Matt, before you go,
Yes.
I'd like to share this anecdote about.
Yes.
There was an episode of Storage Wars when I
Okay.
was hip deep in watching Storage Wars all the time,
Mm-hmm.
where the storage locker that someone bought was filled to the brim of Elvis died newspapers. Like, the people have held on to those newspapers. It was, and they ended up selling for like over $100,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So Marie, if you had kept that, who
It
knows?
it might be in my mother's garage somewhere. Like we
okay.
kept it. It was a big deal. It was a big deal when he died. Let me tell you, the world stopped for a minute there.
If you really believe that he died.
Also, fair point.
Well, we did there in the beginning. I would say in the beginning we did. It was all reports were that he died.
Yes. Well, Elvis, if you're out there listening to our podcast,
Tell us what you think about your movie.
you
If you want to be on,
we're open to that.
totally worth you blowing your big secret and
Yes.
coming out.
Well, so I'll say a few things. One is that I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was from a storytelling perspective. It was a good story. I didn't know all the details of Elvis's life that were revealed in this, and obviously I didn't know anything really about his manager. So all that was really interesting. And I think, Marie, you nailed it when you said that it was a lot more events than character development. I thought there's a little bit of this relationship between Elvis and the manager, but I thought that like even Elvis's character development was kind of weak in comparison to what could have been done. I felt like the guy, Austin Butler, did a good job of kind of acting as Elvis, but there wasn't. I would have preferred more development of that character, more kind of, I don't know, depth of character. And I felt like he didn't do a great job. Like, he did do a great job of acting like Elvis. He didn't do a great job of like acting with depth and with like, there was a lack of gravitas, I thought, at times for his part. But that, I I did not use my metric, which is sighing a lot when things are ridiculous in movies. So, I enjoyed myself in spite of that kind of flaw. And yeah, it was an interesting movie. It was an interesting story. It was interesting to see all of the kind of major events woven in there that happened during Elvis's life. You had the assassination of Robert Kennedy, and you had the assassination of Martin Luther King. Both kind of weighed heavily on the plot, or on Elvis's mind in the storytelling. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I don't think you can go wrong watching this. I didn't really know that stuff that you mentioned, Todd, so that wasn't a big distraction for me, because I was just like, oh, okay, this is more than I knew about Elvis's life, and thanks for telling the story, Baz Luhrmann, that you told. And so, yeah, I think people can see this movie. I think you'll have a good time and enjoy yourself. There's a lot of music in it, for sure.
I loved that. Yeah. I loved hearing all the Elvis music.
That was really cool, and I think they kind of wove in some of his influences, and so you had other you had black musicians of the time also represented as major influences of his, which they were.
Right.
And that was cool also. So yeah, I liked it.
I kind of wish they had delved a little bit deeper into the influences, in the sense that like now watching the movie, besides like the one song that they show him working on, is that the only song he ever wrote himself? Like,
I did think about that too. Like, which songs did he write? Or were they all written
it
for
seems
him?
like every hit that he produced, besides that one song where they show him writing it, was someone else's song. And it wasn't like, that we know of, it wasn't like the original artists were mad that he did it. I don't know how copyright stuff works in like the 50s and 60s, but I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about that. But maybe it's like not a good thing, so they were like, we're not going to hover too much on that.
Right.
Or they were really sticking to the relationship between his manager and him. Like, they were trying to stick to the story.
Yeah, since the book... this movie just felt like, the book came out a long time ago, but it was like, not everyone read the book, so let's make a movie to really show this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Which, I get to an extent. But for me, personally, I'm like... Some of this other stuff, I would really like to know how that went down. I'm sure not every single person who he borrowed a song from was happy about it, to see him get super successful using it. So, anywho.
It sounds like you should write a book, Todd, and include all these other details.
Is it just a book of me asking questions of what I wish I knew?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's also probably an interesting... It also would be interesting to know if the family had anything to do with this movie, if at all.
That's true, yeah.
I'm guessing probably not. But
I saw an article that, like, Lisa Marie Presley just praised the movie. She was like, it represented my dad great.
Oh, well,
That
great.
was the only thing but they didn't say like anything about her being involved or.
Right. I was thinking the same thing when you were bringing up, like, well, they didn't really focus on these negative aspects of Elvis. I was like, I wonder if Elvis's estate, whatever that means today, was like,
Sure.
you can use some of this footage that we have, or something like, you can use these, I don't know, you can use stuff that we have if you keep it nice.
This was a movie for the fans.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Big old fan service for this movie.
sure.
So, on a scale of 1 to 5, or 0 to 5, honestly, 0 being the worst because you don't have anything, 5 being the best because it's the most highly rated, how many clown canes would you give this movie? Which is a very predominant prop that is seen a lot in this movie.
Yes.
Let's start with Matt.
Okay. Yes.
Put the pressure off you.
Ta-
Do not give the first rating there, Murray.
Yeah. So Tom Hanks has this clown cane that is just pretty creepy, and he uses it at different points to poke
Apparently,
things.
a pretty extravagant cane collection that they show at one time,
Yeah.
but we see a lot of the clown cane.
Yes. So, I'm going to say this is a good movie. I'm going to say it's not really a great movie. There's a couple things that I alluded to already that I think could have been better. The music's fun though, and the storytelling is good. So, I'm going to go with 3.6 clown canes out of 5, which is a decent rating. But there was room for more here. I think they left
Yeah.
some on the table. So that's where I'll leave it.
Fair.
Marie.
I hate clown canes.
Mm.
So
What,
I
did you
will, I
hate
will
clown
give,
canes before this movie?
I don't like creepy clowns, so
Okay.
I will give 0 clown canes, but I will give 3.8 peanut butter banana sandwiches.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Fair enough. That's never been done before on our podcast. Someone rejects your
I know.
rating
you know,
system.
It takes me off my high horse
Yeah.
to think that I'm ruler of the universe.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm gonna land through all of us talking and hearing you guys talk and searching my own feelings while we've all been talking. I'm gonna land on probably a 2.8. Better than average. There are things I enjoyed about it. The more we talk about it, the more that I'm wishing I saw some of the things that we didn't see, or like the questions that we've been raising. But I get, that it was like, well, no one knew this part of the story, so we got to tell this. But there's an, I don't know, this is gonna be icky to say. I don't even know if I truly believe it. It's just what's like popping in my head. There's an avenue here where I feel like, for years everyone was wondering, why did Elvis get so much into drugs and gain weight and stuff like that, and all the jokes that have been, it's all me. Now I just flicked it somewhere. It was a bug, just in case you're listening.
Insect attack.
But there just seems like there's a little bit of aspect of, oh, you didn't know this was going on, so here's why he was the way he was, which is like good in an aspect to know, but it also kind of was like, well, now it's okay that, he was like that because you see all the bad stuff that happened to him. And I don't know. It's weird. 2.7. Is that what I said? Or was that? Let's say 2.8. 2.7. That's what I said. 2.7. That's where I'm landing. It was a hard one. I had a hard time landing on the number.
You had a hard time landing that clown cane.
Yeah.
Great. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
It semi makes me want to go buy like Elvis's best hits, I'll be honest. Listening to the music.
I'll just mention that one of the creepiest things about this movie, so it starts out with Tom Hanks's character, the manager, is like running a carnival,
I think to establish that he's a carny, like that he's like a guy like that.
Yes.
Or
Right.
that he's a creep.
Yes. But one of the creepiest things is there are some little people in his carnival that he talks to in a different language,
Yes.
and it's so creepy.
Yeah.
It's so creepy. It's like, it's not a real language. It's like, it's almost like Pig Latin. It might be Pig Latin. I don't think it is, but it sounds so weird, and he just talks to them and gets them to do creepy things for him. And
Yeah, like when it happened and the subtitles flashed, and I was like, what did he say? What language was? I was very much like, what just happened?
right. So I just felt like everyone needs to know about that.
Be aware of it.
Be aware.
It's jarring.
It's jarring.
And if you find clowns super creepy and triggering, you should know that.
Yes,
Be careful.
there are several instances. Yes,
Including one of the smaller people putting and taking off clown makeup, which is always kind of disturbing to me.
yes.
I wasn't sure what that was.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with Marie. And we review tonight the movie Elvis. We gave it an average rating of 3.4 clown canes and or peanut butter and banana sandwiches out of 5, which is a decent rating. And if you want to know more about the bad parts about Elvis, you won't get that in this movie.
Got to research a little yourself.
You got to research a little yourself. You can read Todd's book that he's going to write.
Book of questions.
Book of questions. Was Elvis a creep? I think is the name of the book.
Well, you know why
Working
like all
title.
this kind of skepticism has come from for me is because they're doing they're about to start. I think they're about to start filming a Hulk Hogan biopic with Chris Hemsworth being Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
And as a kid, I was the biggest Hulk Hogan fan, and as an adult, now like it's like, ooh, there's a lot of bad stuff here, and I have this. I'm like, with any biopic, I have this stance of go hard. Like I want to know, go hard. I want to know it all. Let the chips lay where they may.
I think the Hulkster may get it gone hard at him.
I hope so.
Yes. Well, anyway, we got sidetracked. I was wrapping up. Yes. We got the clown canes. We've got 3.4. Is that what I said? 3.4?
Yes.
Yes. And that's our rating. So, all listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, subscribing, interacting with us on Facebook, even though not very many people
Doesn't
do
happen that much at all, period.
But we still put it out there. We take the time. We make it happen. And you make it worthwhile. You, the listeners. So thank you for that. And we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da-da.
da da da.
Da-da-da.